This is Larry Bonaroto from LarryOnLearning.com, and this is your Morning Minute. This is a tale of two fourth graders. John and Ann were fourth graders at Federal Elementary School. They were not friends when they sat down at the same table in the lunchroom. Ann looked unhappy, so John asked her what was the matter. Ann explained that she forgot her lunch today and she had no lunch money. John said, "Well, I've got a sandwich and an apple, and I'll be glad to share them with you." He shared, she thanked him. This started a long-lasting friendship between the two of them. Great story, right? Now let's make a small change. After John sat down, Ann complained loudly that her mom didn't give her any lunch money. She said, "Mom didn't even make my lunch today. This is so unfair." Seeing John's apple, she demanded that he give it to her because she was hungry. She continued complaining until John finally gave her the apple. She was ungrateful, acted like John owed this to her. John decided he would never sit with her again. Small change, much different outcome. Let's tweak this one more time. John and Ann's relatives had bad blood between them. 50 years ago, Ann's grandmother accused John's grandfather of keeping her from getting the job she wanted because of her race. The families were enemies from that day forward. Earlier that day, Ann was crying as she shared this story with the school counselor. Now, John did not want to sit with Ann. He sat there only because there were no other seats in the lunchroom. Ann began shouting at John, demanding he give her his lunch because he owed her. Hearing the commotion, the counselor approached the table. Seeing who was involved, the counselor told John to give his lunch to Ann due to what his grandfather had done. John did as he was told, but not before shouting that he was not responsible for something his grandfather did 50 years ago. Can you relate to these stories? How does the attitude taken by Ann in the second story change its outcome? In the third story, how was the relationship between John and Ann shaped by an event that happened 50 years ago? Based on the third story, how would you react if you were John? Now compare these stories to what's happening between people in America today. Do you see any similarities? Why do we not treat each other with respect? How are we so set in our opinions that we don't listen to each other? And lastly, how must we change for Americans to peacefully discuss issues by listening to each other and begin working together to create positive outcomes? And that is today's Morning Minute.